Hello, I'm architect Maria Desuva and I'm part of the EcoSpace team. Today we will see how to build a standard skyscraper. In this architectural example, we will have special details of the facade that would be a curved surfaces. So we will begin with installing the soap skin and bubble extension from the extension warehouse. I place the tools on the left side and I begin with shape tool as I make a bigger than the standard size rectangle for the base of the building, but after we are ready we would resize it. We will work in bigger scale because in that way you would see a better version of the workflow. Now I will divide this rectangle. I will use these elements with select tool and control to make a copy of one of it and then deleting the original one. That's how I will have two bases for two different buildings. I continue by giving a height on this floor slab with push-pull tool, and then I will erase this triangle shape from it. I will select and group this object so that I can use it by copying with Ctrl and Move tool and giving the height of the floor. I could type it down with the keyboard and pressing enter. You can even check if you have a mistake in the typing with tape measure tool. And now I will use the command X and number to make a number of copies on the same distance. This is a very easy and fast way to work with many floors that are one and the same shape. I will now select some of them and will rotate them. I will make a copy on the first ones. I will align them first and then I will make the height on the standard floor. Pay attention that we use always a point that is accurate one, not just using move tool with some random part of the element. I will make a copy of the second part, and after that I make the last level. Here we've got some interesting volume, mainly because of the rotations, and keep in mind that you can use accurate angles. In this case 45 degrees. I will make one more skyscraper that would be with circle base, and then again with scale tool we will make it a bit more oval. We can make each geometry that we want with shape tool and with arc tool so that we can change the floor slab and make something more specific. To be easier to work, we will first make some geometry that is a referential one from the center of the circle, and then I will use it to make the arc. I will use push-pull tool downwards to delete this part. I will now make the columns. This element would be grouped to be easier to work with, and then I will use it in the different buildings. Now I will demonstrate the different ways to work with copies. Here I will use Control with Rotate tool, so that we will have realistic construction based on some axis. Here again, making the first copy, and then with Control and Rotate and typing X number, we will have all the copies of this column. Control and move to make another copy, and again pointing the way, we will make a straight line of copies that would be the same distance, X and number. I will select all the columns from the one floor and then would copy them in the same method as many times as we have floors above. I will repeat the process to the other directions. Remember, first we have to make one copy on the needed distance, and then just typing X and number with enter. Here is the moment to mention that as designers and architects we should always use certain points, because we have to align our elements and not just place them randomly on our scene. So it's easier to work with chosen points and lines that we align all the other elements to. Often in the scene could occur the situation that I cannot choose all the elements that I want to select. So in this case we can use the changing options of the camera settings from the menu by changing it from perspective to parallel projection. You see that it's very easy to choose all the columns and just copy them to another part of the building. I align them. And here we will rotate this group by pointing the direction of the group and then clicking on the direction of the slab. I will now copy this group on this level and the upper one, and then I will click with right button on the mouse and edit group. Using again the parallel projection, I would select the columns from one of the floors and then copy them up. I could enter the group by double clicking as well. Now we will repeat the process here with the other skyscraper. I will remake the height of the slab and then I will move the columns to be aligned with the floor. Now I will reverse the camera settings from parallel projection to perspective, and I will continue the work with deleting some of the elements where the floors overlap and free space for terraces. Now I will select one of the columns and we will see what is the method to copy it to the geometry of the arc. Because if I start to work as in a line showing just the arc, the copies would be aligned not to the arc but to a line that is parallel to the first distance. There is another way, and now we will see it working. Every arc has a center. When I touch the geometry of the arc, there is a referential center. I will make a line from the arc to it, and then I will click first time and second with Ctrl and rotate, and then clicking X and number. As you see, now the multiplying process is to the geometry of the arc. It's the time to benefit from the bubble skin extension. To work with it, we will click on line tool and we have to make a closed surface first. It could be made of different geometry elements, arcs, complex polygons, it doesn't depend, but it's very important to be all closed. All the elements should be touching in a contact point. Now with select tool and control, I will choose all these lines and then I will click skin from the toolbar, enter, and here we've got a complex banded surface. It's a very impressive options of the extension that we have. After we finish working with these closed surfaces, making the skin, we will work with the materials as we can treat it as vertical green system or with some kind of a glass material. The options are absolutely endless. Again, choosing all the lines, enter, after clicking skin. It's almost like a meshwork. You see, we have a grid and we have to consider its complexity, because as detailed it is, it would be more difficult for the software and for the hardware to complete it. So it could be a bit more time consuming as well. So when it is not needed, we could keep it in this standard grid. If we want some more details or to be more banded, we can type number and enter. A very common mistake is when we not succeed in selecting all the lines of this closed contour. In this moment, the extension would give us a box with the message that we have a mistake. When this happens, we have to check if we did select all the lines, and keep in mind that if we have some groups, as in this floor slab, we have different small lines that we have to select as well, because when they are small elements we can miss them easily. With Control and Select, I add this line and we'll continue with the other ones. And now I would be able to close this surface with a skin. Each skin made by this extension is actually a group with a grid, and if I enter in it, I would be able to make different changes to the surface. So I have variety of options to make different modifyings. Here I show exactly this example. I reshape the skin by connecting it with the previous one. In this working process, we use smaller skins because these help the software and hardware to make this computational task easily. When we work with a bigger contours as a length and as a complexity, this would be a bit of a challenge for the hardware if it is not powerful enough. I continue as our aim is to have a nice composition and give the facade of the building a bit more attractive vision. I will demonstrate the fastest way of working when I make the contouring with the lines. I could triple click with left button of the mouse, then just pressing skin, and now I will make a bit more detailed surface, so giving 20 by typing it on the keyboard and then pressing enter. In the modeling process, we have to look at the white part of the surfaces as it is the front one. That's why I would enter the group of the skin. I will select all the parts and then right click and reverse faces. I will set the material. In this case, I will choose glass from glass and mirrors. After we build the skins, we will make some facade walls. The easiest way is by using the rectangle tool. Here I would start from one of the highest point of one of the levels to the base point, and I would change it with a transparent material like glass to see the construction behind. You can try different variations depending on the design of the architecture. It is very useful to remember that working with groups, as it is in this case with the floor slabs and the columns, it helps us to be very flexible when working with additional walls, because we can place them on the outer part or behind the columns or at some middle distance, and we could change it at any time. If we don't work with groups, we would be challenged to move only the surface of the wall. Many times we could replace some other elements with it. We can rotate at 45 degrees by typing down the number and pressing enter. It's very important to start by selecting the rotation from the center, and I will again look for it by pointing the circle. Now I will make a kind of a trick. I would select both of these levels. I would use Control and Move to bring them up, aligning them, and then together I would rotate them to the degrees that I need. Time to start with the extension. Here I would make a larger skin by making more complex skin by aligning geometry from the highest to the lowest level. In this larger skin, we will see that this grid is very important, and by typing different numbers bigger and bigger, we will see how the geometry would be more detailed until we get the result that we want. On the right corner in the screen, you will see the numbers that I type and then pressing enter, choosing with triple click, skin, number, and enter. Here it is a space that it isn't closed. Sometimes if we get the number to be bigger, it could solve the problem, but other times we should just enter the group and close it manually. I would now move this point, then on the other side, and now my skin is placed better. I could make any additional changes in order to get the vision that I'm looking for. The probability of having some gaps is more often when we have complex contours and larger ones as a surface. So now again, as in the previous building, we have surfaces that we have to reverse, selecting them and right click on the mouse, reverse faces. And now I will choose Circle tool from Shape Tools. I would begin from the center of the object, and with Offset tool I would make the depth of the wall, and then with Push-Pull tool and Control, after giving it the material, I would continue it to the lowest level. I could make some kind of a terrace by pushing up the surface. I continue to work with the materials. I would try different designs. As the last levels would be terraces, I would make some kind of a borders with Offset tool. You see the design from all the sides. You could change the materials by choosing the size or change some of the colors, the brightness and other settings. I would repeat the method in the third building as copying the column, making the construction, Now I will demonstrate how we can make an opening in a building or just in an element like the floor slab. First we have to build an object that we would extract from the model of the building. Then grouping it and bring it inside of the building. I will use Move tool and be sure to place it inside and through all the elements that we want to delete some parts so that we can have an opening. It could be used for construction core or for interior design purposes. Now I will select one of the options of the solid tool, then clicking the first object and the second one. I repeat the process as many times as number of the floors that I have. Now I enter the group and I delete these surfaces in order to get the opening that I want. I would repeat it till the level of the base. And when I look the building from the inside, I would see that now I have cuttings in the floor slabs. It's very impressive and it's used very often in the process of the architects and designers. Here we can add some railing or insert a construction core. When I enter the group, with Offset tool, I will make the borders of the terraces. Of course, I will use Push-Pull tool to give the border a height. I will begin with the composition of the buildings as we search for a good vision, a balanced one. But first we select the element of the skin and the building in order to be moved easily and to be placed properly. I will try some rotation to the building to search for the exact face that I want to see in the front. We will build a terrain that is a vegetation base and accent for the whole composition, and it will give some richer vision. And with the 3D warehouse I will add some more ready-made models in order to make this area even more attractive. And this is the moment that I will rescale the buildings in order to be the right size. I would make the circle building an oval by pressing one of the middle points with the scale tool, and then I will align it to the floor slabs of the lowest building. Replacing some elements, adding some others, deleting parts from the groups. Very useful options for all the models from the warehouse, because we can change it depending on what we need. In this case I could use even a copies of these trees from the group in order to make a park areas in my scene. With the finishing touches, I will make the whole scene complete, and this is the final result. As you see, SketchUp is a powerful software that gives us the opportunity to build a very simple models, and of course, as in this example, a greater and bigger example of architecture like the skyscrapers. Wish you good luck and see you soon.